Смотрите, тут такой момент. Учебный офис и академические руководители образовательной программы требуют, чтобы мы вели семинары на английском, ну и лекции тоже. Мне, в принципе, вести на английском. То есть мы можем сейчас попробовать общаться на английском. То есть, так как у нас все материалы, и домашки, и лекционные слайды, они все на английском, то лучше, если мы потихоньку будем переходить на язык международного общения и взаимодействовать через него. Давайте попробуем и посмотрим, что из этого выйдет.
А можно вопрос, пока мы не начали?
Да, пожалуйста.
По поводу того, перейдем ли мы на очное обучение или нет, вот сегодня в новостях было про то, что 8 февраля, по идее, все должны перейти. Это вы что-нибудь про это знаете, нет?
Да-да, я знаю. Но смотрите, тот приказ, который сейчас подписал министр Фальков, он относится к тем вузам, которые подведомственны Министерству науки и высшего образования. А мы, вышка, подведомственны правительству. И, соответственно, пока такая небольшая неразбериха в этом плане, но вообще официально мы выходим с 29 марта. Вы, наверное, видели, чуть ранее там вышка для своих опубликовала. И сегодня вот нам тоже преподавателям скинули информацию, что оффлайн начинается в конце марта. То есть пока у нас информация, что мы начинаем в марте. Вот.
Понял, спасибо.
Насчет английского языка. У нас просто это не первая дисциплина, которую нужно было, по идее, вести на английском, но везде мы приходили к тому, что гораздо лучше все идет на русском, потому что и у нас не идеальный английский, и у лекторов не идеальный английский. Из-за этого ошибки перевода накапливаются и приводят к непониманиям.
Да, я услышал, Алексей, вас. Ну, я думаю, что мы можем пока попробовать. Первый семинар, он вообще такой вводный, и я думаю, что большинство из вас с питоном, анализом данных знакомы. Давайте попробуем. Если будет сложновато, то я тогда больше буду переходить на русский, когда у нас более серьезные сложные темы будут. Вот, как-то так. So, okay, guys, let's start our seminar. My name is Maxim Karpov. I will teach you for course Mathematical Methods for Data Analysis in Module 3 and 4. And before we start, I just want to launch a poll about background information of your knowledge in Python. I launching the poll. Please answer the 3 simple questions in order to understand what the audience is. So it's about your previous experience about Python and applications in which you were working in it. And then we will see how the first seminar will be structured. In the meantime, I've sent to you Telegram chat group some useful links. The first one is the zip archive of our seminar. Please download it. And also another information is about consultations. You have an opportunity to attend them in Zoom. Please feel free to ask any questions, either in English or in Russian. If you feel a little bit stressful I will send, well, actually, I'm not sure whether I can send the zip archive in Zoom chat. Mikhail, I will send the link to the Telegram chat, how to connect it. Please go to this chat. Actually, the whole information will be stored there. And here my the link to my timetable, where you can see the consultation hours on Mondays starting from the 1st February, and to connect to the Zoom link there. So let's end the poll, and I will share the results. Actually, the majority of students in 182 group is familiar with Python. It's great. And most of you are attending some courses, some classes at HEC, or take courses in data camp and so on. So, and many of you is familiar with web applications, especially Jupyter and Google Colab, in which we will be working. So, okay. I will share my screen right now. Could you please tell me, do you see the Jupyter Notebook first seminar?
Yes.
Great. So I will repeat some useful information once again. The seminars will be recorded, and the videos will be downloaded to YouTube channel with our seminars. I will share the link a little bit later to Telegram chat group, and then you will have an opportunity to watch the seminars, to recall some parts if you wish. So here you can see the table of teachers and assistants, teaching assistants. In our group, the teaching assistant will be Viktor Grushanin. You may see the contact Telegram here, and also mine. So please feel free to ask any questions, give any comments about our course if you have. As for administrative things, for example, home assignments, the formula for our course, it will be discussed tomorrow during the lecture. Anna Kuzina will be the lecturer in our course. She's a great data scientist, currently working in the Netherlands, Amsterdam. And all useful information about home assignments and formula will be discussed tomorrow. Вкратце на русском продублирую. У нас сегодня такой вводный семинар, где мы быстро пробежимся по базовым вещам в Python. Ну, так как аудитория, в принципе, уже знакома с ним, то, наверное, мы больше перейдем к непосредственно к библиотекам для анализа данных, Python, Numpy, Matplotlib. И, возможно, я вас чуть раньше отпущу, так как достаточно материал простой. Но если вы чувствуете, что вам не хватает каких-то знаний по Python, то вот в том архиве, который я скинул в Telegram, там есть тетрадки дополнительные, которые вы можете просмотреть в свободное от учебы время, от пар, и решать, посмотреть материал по конкретным там вещам. Там есть отдельные тетрадки по базовому Python, по NumPy, Pandas и так далее. Вот эта тетрадка, она, скажем так, сборная солянка из нескольких семинаров, которые обычно читаются там в течение месяца. Мы постараемся сегодня такие основные моменты осветить, вспомнить. И да, может показаться будет сегодня немножко скучновато, но вот со следующего семинара, когда там пройдет первая лекция, мы уже приступим уже там к разведывательному анализу данных, и уже что-то будет более более серьезно. Okay, let's start the seminar. Actually, yes, I didn't present myself properly. Also, once again, I'm Maxim Karpov. I'm currently a third-year PhD student at the Doctoral School of Computer Science at our faculty, and working as a researcher at Lambda. It's one of Faculty of Computer Science laboratories. The whole name is the Laboratory of Methods for Big Data Analysis. The main focus of the lab is working with CERN projects. So it's a Large Hadron Collider, where applying machine learning methods for finding new physics and so on. And another focus of the lab is working with industrial partners of applying methods for big data analysis for industrial projects. So, okay, Python, in a few words, is a high-level programming language, which is widely used among data scientists nowadays. And it has a really simple syntax. And I suppose that you already know this advantage of Python. So, another good thing here is that Python has a lot of libraries for data analysis, scikit-learn, SciPy, and so on. And it is really useful to make different computations using these libraries. So one of the ways to work, the way how data scientists work, they use Jupyter Notebooks. Maybe you are familiar more with Google Colab, where you can launch your notebooks on remote server and to compute your neural networks. But actually, at the beginning of our course, the tasks will be not so computationally efficient, and you may launch the notebook on your local machine. Yes, please, if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to ask it during the seminar. You may interrupt me. Please don't be shy. If it's okay by now, please write pluses in the chat, and we may move further in order to discuss the following material. Yes, thanks. I think that this part of the notebook is rather clear. So one of the simplest ways to install Python is downloading the Anaconda distribution. I think that you've already done it. So a few words about Jupyter Notebook. It consists of different cells. Each cell has its type, but we will use two major types. They are Markdown and code. Now you see the Markdown cell. If you want to change its type to code, you may use a shortcut Y button on your keyboard. And in order to create, to change the type of the code cell to Markdown, use the shortcut M. And then it will change to my Markdown. In Help button in the upper menu of the Jupyter, you may find keyboard shortcuts. And here is a collection of different useful buttons. Actually, I recommend you to remember how to create new button, for example, above, below, and how you can cut selected cells. Well, actually, there are others important shortcuts run cells select below. It's Shift plus Enter, which are also very useful. Okay, yeah, if you have any problem with computations in Jupyter and there is a star in square brackets here, you may to stop the IPython notebook and just press the square button in the upper part of your Jupyter notebook, or just select interrupt, restart, and everything will be okay. So I think that you have already studied different programming languages, C, C#, Java, and others, and you understand the fundamental concepts in programming. And the only difference in all of them is the syntaxes. In Python, the syntaxes is really simple. So there is an example how you can see the additional information or documentation about the function using the question mark at the end of function. But actually, I prefer the following shortcuts. I just press Shift plus double tap in order to see this docstring. So I will send to you this combination. And you may exercise it if you are not yet familiar with this wonderful short keys. So you press the, you will select the cursor at the brackets, and then press Shift plus tab, and then you will see the docstring about the function. It will be really useful when we start learning more sophisticated things about neural networks, launching machine learning methods, and so on. So I suppose that this part is clear. We may display the content by using the print function, and you may insert different types of data. So integers or string data types and others. Okay, then we go to input. Input, it's just entering data into the program where you can enter some text, for example, name, and it will display the, it will be displayed by the print function. Okay, the arithmetic operations are also rather simple. So the, the most tricky part is division. The ordinary division is used by 1/integer division, целочисленное деление, 2 slashes, and remainder of the division, остаток деления, we use the % symbol. Okay, there are some simple tasks in this notebook. I think that we may skip it. And when we see the problems which may be more interesting, I will ask you to solve them in 1 or 2 minutes, and then we will move further. So here's some calculations about how to calculate the revenue which we will have from our savings on some interest rates. There is an interesting point here in Python that be cautious with comparing float results by using float numbers. So you may see that there are some differences, very little differences in such cases. So in order to well, be cautious with these moments. So variables, you may define variables and record some values into them. So it may be integer float numbers, strings, and so on. Some functions are inbuilt in Python. For example, the round function, which give you actually the round of some value. Okay. Could you please tell me, shall I be a little slower, or it's okay?
It's okay.
Thank you, Andrei. So I think that we may go further. 4 types, basic types in Python you already know. Of course, there are much more of them, and we will see them a little bit later. So here we have some manipulations with our variables and changing the type of variables into another. For example, the integer or non-integer variable we change to string variable, and that is how it works. Okay. So another popular type of data is list. It's an ordered massive of elements. When we use square brackets and fill it with numbers with comma, and lists have indices, so you may call the nth element in your list by addressing it in this way. So indexation in Python starts with 0, as you know, and in our example, the second element in our list will be this number, 746. Okay, another interesting thing about lists that the elements may be of different nature. So it may be strings, Boolean variables, and the list itself may be the part of the list. Okay, here's some example with for cycle. When we iterate in some list and trying to calculate the whole savings of the family. Yes, if you have a list of lists and you want to, for example, display the following number, so savings of that, you just need to index firstly the position of the inner list. It's 1 here, and to display the savings, you need to write the second index. It's here will be 1, and then you will display the needed value. So it looks like this. 1. Okay. Yeah, there is a great bunch of different methods for lists that you can use. The most popular ones are to append. It adds an element to your list at the end of the list. If you need to add some other list to your current list, you using an extend method. Well, actually, I think that it's rather clear, all these methods, and we may move further. Well, also sort is also useful. here methods which helps you to sort items in some order. Pop helps you to remove some item in the list, and so on. Okay, conditional statements. They are rather simple also, so you have some logical expressions. There have symbols as we are used to in mathematics. Not equal is we use exclamation mark and equality symbol in order to make not equal value. Okay. Conditional operator, it's if-else syntaxes. When you use conditions, you just write the if word at the beginning, then the condition itself, 2 points, and then with one descent, print or make some other manipulations in the body of your condition. If you have several conditions, please use elif. And final part, branch of your condition will be else. Okay. Well, there are some trivial examples. For example, we have a room, kitchen, and we want to compare it with 15 square meters, the area of its kitchen, and if it is true, then we write the kitchen is large. If it's not, then the kitchen is small. Well, I think that it's also clear. So cycle while. When you need to iterate for several steps in your program, you usually use one cycle, and it will stop when some counter will take the final result. For example, we have some the step index, for example, I equals 0, and then we increment it during our cycle while by 1 or by another step, and it should be finished before some value. Okay. Cycle 4 and range. Let's recall this part. In range, you may record some values in a specific diapason. So we remember that the second argument is not included in range. And also we may fix the step from which we want to go in our range diapason. So we start from 2, then we need to go to the 6th, not included, but we have step 2. So the result will be only 2 and 4. Okay, so here, here's an example of how for cycle is used. So you iterate for each element of your list in this example, and then print the following information: first color, and then apple. Okay. Some words about functional programming. Here is the example how we can define the power function Python, but actually it's all already built in Python with 2 symbols of with 2 stars. So, but here we just want to show you the syntaxes. So at the beginning we write def, then the function we want to define, and in brackets the arguments that you want to give it to your function. And then there's some code in the body of your function. And finally, what should this function return? Which result? Okay. Here's a task how to define the area of the triangle using Heron's formula. One of methods how to calculate the area of the triangle. So the basic scheme is to define the p, how we calculate it in the body of our function square triangle, and then using square root, probably from math library, you may calculate this multiplication of variables. Okay, I think that that is all for basic Python, and now we're going to data analysis packages. They are Numpy, Pandas, and the visualization libraries Matplotlib, Seaborn. Okay, in order to start working with libraries, we usually import them. We write import, the name of the library, and then we are using so-called alias of this library. Alias is a short name of the library, which we'll be frequently using in order to write our code faster. So for NumPy, the alias is np, and NumPy arrays somehow look like the same as the lists. They also have the structure. Yeah, I forgot to import the NumPy library. So yeah, here we may see that type of objects which we store in our NumPy arrays are integer numbers. And if we want to display what we have in this array, it will look like this. So an array, NumPy array with elements in the list. Okay, so there are some other examples. Also, we can have NumPy array of objects of different. Yeah, the principal difference from the list that if you have an element, one element string in your NumPy array, the all other elements also will be strings. So please pay attention to this moment. And when we are working with lists, we may use different data type objects. So, but if you specify the type as objects, then you will see that the integer and float numbers in list have the default structure. So let's move further. Indexing. NumPy indexing is very like the same as in lists. In order to display the last element, we're using -1. So, and if you want to go with some step, for example, -2, we are using 2 points, and then specify the size of our step. So we start from the end, from 5, and going in left to the left with 2 steps. That's why we have here 2. If you want to display some slices of elements starting from 1, then you may not write the second part, second number, and just write the first element. Okay, and also we are using Boolean conditions. We may use Boolean conditions within Numpy Arrays, and it's also very useful. So let's move further and try some more sophisticated manipulations with arrays. For example, you may take the sum of all elements in your array, compute the average, the mean of all elements, take maximum, take minimum. It's rather clear. And if you wish to multiply your all elements, you are using prod method for NumPy. For example, if your NumPy array consists of string objects, string elements, and you want to sort them in some order, for example, in so we can just do it in the following way. Yeah, if you want to sort your string objects in an alphabetical order, you are using in ascending in alphabetical order, you use method sort. I'm doing like this. I wonder why it's not working with another way. Order. Okay. Let's move further. If you want to calculate how much time this or that operation takes, for example, the summation of elements in NumPy array, you may just write 2% symbols and time it. Then you will see the average time in order to compute these, to make these computations. Are there any questions so far?
Oh, everything's clear.
Great. Thanks. Let's move further. Well, actually, you may specify how many loops and how many runs you want to test your method, for example, summation in an NumPy array. So, and you will see that how much time does it take. It's 3 milliseconds approximately, plus minus 2 per loop. The next part is about vectorized operations and multiplications of matrices or multidimensional arrays. Usually we fix the random generated seed before we make, for example, splitting our data into train and test, or creating random matrices. It's a good practice to do it, always to do this comment. So in order to create two Numpy arrays, we are using library random for creating some random objects, data objects. We specify the borders, the minimal and maximal number from the range from which we want to generate our random array, and the size of array. Here's one example of how you may print specific values using format string method, but also there is another another approach how we can do it, just writing f string. Let's try it. It should work. So we just write a numpy in the first brackets, then b numpy, and so on. Probably this annotation will be more comfortable for you. Well, okay. Then there is a pure Python realization of how can we summarize our elements element-wise of two arrays, but it looks not very good. It's better to just write to sum up two arrays, and then you'll see that this operation works faster than when we just iterate in the cycle, in the for cycle, and it takes really much more time, 2 times slower than when we just sum up our numpy arrays using numpy. Okay, let's try something with matrices. We also want to create some random numpy arrays, but now we are specifying the size of these matrices here with 2 dimensions. So we write the number of rows and then number of columns. So, and this is how we may create such matrices. So here's the part about pure Python. I think we may skip it. So you may see that without NumPy, it's rather difficult to create such tables, such matrices. It takes more operations and not very efficient. Whereas using NumPy library, you just write one line of code instead of 5, and do multiplication very fast. Okay. You may multiply your matrices, multiply A then B, or B and A, but be cautious about the dimensions. If the dimensions are not equal, then there may be some problems with multiplications. So there is also the demonstration of how much time does it take in pure Python to multiply to NumPy arrays. And we see that in NumPy, it takes 900 nanoseconds, and it's really fast than when we use just pure Python. Okay, Actually, if you have any questions, comments during my my speech, don't be afraid to ask something. Maybe I should repeat some material which is not very clear. If it's okay, let's just go further. Yeah, we may do some chaining calculations. For example, we have a given function and we want to compute its gradient function at a given point x. So how can we do it? We can also generate random metrics and then specify the vectors x, b, and c, just for our example, and do these multiplications in a really simple way. In order to transpose array, we use the capital T letter, which is corresponding for transpose. To multiply, we're using dot. And I think that the syntax is rather clear how NumPy multiplications of matrices works. Also you may use, instead of dot, another symbol. It's at symbol, which doing the same as the dot method. So I think that's all for NumPy part, and we may go to Pandas and refresh our knowledge about how we're working with tabular data. In Pandas, there are two data structures. The whole table which we are working with is a data frame. And if you want to work with a specific column or row in your data frame, it's called Pandas series. You may address each row by writing the index of this row. If you want to specify a particular column, you just need to write the column name using quotation marks. And also you may be interested in D-type objects in Pandas. Well, actually, we will see it a little bit later, which objects are stored in Pandas. So let's create our custom Pandas data frame. It has 3 columns. First one is called columns, then index and data. So actually, yeah, the columns, it's the columns names, country, province, and so on. And then which indexes will be for our rows. If we are not specified them, then it will be by default 0, 1, 2, 3. And data, actually the information which we want to write in our table, in our data frame. So in order to create such data frame, we write pd dot data frame and insert our data frame object, the attributes data, columns, and index, which we specify in the previous cell. Here the display of our table. We are displaying the content of our table. So here some problem which we may try to solve. Well, actually, it may take much time. So what you should need to do, you just define the columns, each name and the scores. I think that the procedure is clear, and we may move further. Okay. As for loading and writing data frames, I think that you already some of you familiar. If not, it's done by read CSV function pandas. If we download CSV data frame, yeah. For example, if you need to download TXT file or some other formats, you will use some other functions to do it. So let's download our Pandas CSV file into Pandas format. In order to display the first columns, you write data.head and 5, but actually you may not write it because by default it displays the first 5 rows in your data frames. If you want to display some other number of elements, you specify it, insert the head method of data. If you want to see the last, for example, 5 rows in your table, you are using tail method, and tail shows you the last 5 elements by default. But if you want to specify, for example, 7 last elements, you are right, insert the brackets this number. Okay, so yeah, you see that there is some problem with our data frame. Not problem, but not very beautiful vision of the table. We have the column unnamed, which duplicates the index column. In order to make it disappear, we just add the flag call equals 0, and then we will see that the first 3 lines and the whole data frame doesn't have anymore this column unnamed. So why does it happen? It's in CSV file has been written already this column, and when we want to read these data frames, Pandas create its index column by default, but as in the CSV file was this column index, its index column, it duplicates also this. Okay. So there are some useful methods which help you to do some statistics in Pandas. For example, count of elements in each column. You may see, for example, in region 2, there are 60,000 elements. And that means that the majority of elements in region 2 column have not a number type, or just none. Here you can see it in region 2, row 2, there is a none, not a number object in this cell. So data info will give you information about also the types of objects in Pandas data frames, that string objects which we have seen in Python, pure Python. Here's object, integer number are int 64 and float 64. So there are different other useful attributes. For example, dtypes attribute of data. You may see the list of types of data in your Pandas data frame. And if you want just see the shape of your data frame, you just write .shape. You may see that this line comments we write without brackets, so it's they are called attributes in Python. It's the specific information which is already stored in data object. That's why we don't need these brackets. And when we use some methods, we are just right in this way. Okay, for example, we know that in region 2 there are many not a number objects, and if you want to see to display the true in places when this non-empty object is situated, then we may use the method is null. And another method how we can display it is using so-called heat maps in Seaborn. And here we may visualize our table with and see that where we have yellow rows, that means that these columns have more not a number of objects in our data frame. Okay. So the method describe helps you to give some descriptive statistics about your data frame for numerical features. So there are minimum, maximum, and the first, the second, and the third quantiles. Some other statistical things like mean and standard deviation. So it's also useful. If you want to have some descriptive statistics for object types in your data frames, non-numeric data, then you just specify include equals 0 inside your brackets, and you may have some statistics about your data frame for such objects. Okay, data slices, they look the following way. So if you want to, one of versions how to do it is to select the specific column. If you want to select several columns, for example, price and country, you just write square brackets 2 times. Why do so? The first brackets square, the first square brackets refers to the whole data set, yeah, which we created its data, and then we take a subtable to specific columns from our outer table. То есть у нас есть одна внешняя таблица, с которой мы обращаемся с наружными квадратными скобками, и далее мы берем, скажем так, под таблицу из исходного нашего датафрейма. Поэтому здесь мы используем 2 раза квадратные скобки. Another version how to select different rows in our Pandas data frame is slicing like in lists and Numpy Arrays. But for example, if you need to select different rows by specific columns, we actually use lock method or ilock. Let's look how it works. So the lock method, if you want to display information only about the price, we're writing 2 points, and that means that the whole all rows should be displayed, and then the specific column which we want to take the information from. If you want to have information about all columns, but for specific row, then you just write this index of this row, and then 2 points, please display all columns. Okay, there are some other transformations that we can use here. So yeah, please pay attention that in lock method, the second index is included. The second border, right border, is included in slicing, yeah, whereas in range, in lists, it's not included. But if we work with iLock method, you will see that iLock works like the lists and Numpy Arrays slicing. The right border does not include it in our slice. Okay, yeah. Actually, you may write not the specific name of your column, but just the position of your column in the table. It also works. So there are different realizations of how iLock works. I think that it also rather clear. And also in Pandas, you may set different conditions. For example, we want to display data for countries for price of our wine, which is not lower than 15. So that's why we write this conditional statement, and then we display our required data for wine. So we're going to the plot section of our seminar. Actually, you may plot different graphs just in Pandas. Sometimes it's okay, but here we may see that the graph is very, the data is grouped in all in small area of the graph, and it's really difficult to see, to find some fluctuations. Yeah, and in order to, this graph is also not very readable, and if and for to use more beautiful graphs, we are using Matplotlib. And we will see it a little bit later. So we have bar graphs. Yeah, you can just plot a bar graph for your data sets. Another method is also to value count data. So other kinds of graphs, they are bar horizontal. So it's kind bar H. It's called bar H. And if you want to write something like this, you may specify the kind of the plot is line. Well, actually, there are many other types of graphs in Pandas. For example, area or some kind of distribution. Histograms. You just change the kind of your plot, and you construct some graphs in Pandas. Here we can see the so-called box whisker plot, ящик с усами, the graph that is widely used by statisticians. Well, okay, let's go to final part of our seminar. It's Matplotlib recap of how can we specify different parts of the graph using Matplotlib library. So actually, there is a useful function in NumPy, which is called NumPy linspace, which create points from 0 to 15, from 0 to 100, and distribute 15 points uniformly on the whole of this line. And then we want our Python to graph this plot with Matplotlib. And it plots by default the line within these 15 points. So we may also plot some inbuilt NumPy trigonometric functions, for example, cosinus. So some useful methods in order to make our graph more readable. First of all, it's making labels for our two axes, x-axis and y-axis. You may call it as you wish in different styles. Different names may appear, not just x, y, but I don't know, year on x, yeah, we have time, and GDP on y-axis. So here we also may make a title for our Matplotlib graph with the function title. And also, if you want to create a legend on your graph, you just you should specify the labels, which should labels here, which should be displayed on your legend, and then write the plt.legend line. Okay, if you want to specify the figure size of your graph, then in figure function, you just write the fixed size which you want. So on the horizontal, we have 8 inches or points, so-called in web design, and 4 points on vertical axis. So if you want to change colors, you may use the flag C. It's for color, stands for color. So here's the example how you may find specific color in Google. For example, you need for this to find hex color, so-called, and then specify the specific color you wish. For example, copy this hex color and specify it in your color flag in your plot function. So this is how it works. So different types of lines maybe, not just the solid line, but with dashes or with points. So it's this part of plot function are responsible for. Another way how to make your graphs more beautiful. Okay. Another type of graphs in Matplotlib which we can use are bar plots, столбчатая диаграмма, and in order to create, we use the bar function here, and different arguments are used here. So for column, aligning on center these columns, then the specific heights of these columns, and so on. Yeah, if you need to make titles for your ticks on your x-axis, you may use xticks in your graph and specify the name of each column. Okay, and finally, we have histogram. we may visualize some random distribution, normal distribution, using the random module in Numpy library with hist function. We specify the number of bins which we want to visualize our normal distribution. So, and finally, we use the title for our graph, and to show our plot, we write plt.show in order to display our graphs. So to sum up today's seminar, it was just a fast recap of Python basics. We just revise the basic concepts in the syntaxes in Python. They are if, else conditions, cycles for while, different data types, how to manipulate with them. Then we considered three major libraries for data analysis: Numpy, Pandas, and Matplotlib, and a little bit Seaborn. On the next seminar, we will continue to work with Pandas and start with sklearn, and start a new topic, exploratory data analysis. We will work with our data, make some feature engineering, make scaling and other transformations with our data. So everything which is has the name of exploratory data analysis, то есть разведывательный анализ данных. Мы начнем на следующем семинаре. Do you have any questions so far?
Если это конец, то у меня есть несколько вопросов, но они, поскольку я не знаком с питоном, они такие базовые, поэтому если у вас есть время, минут 10 в конце ответить после всех вопросов, я был бы рад.
Окей, да, я думаю, можем остаться и обсудим ваши вопросы. Михаил, так, если у оставшейся группы нет вопросов, да,
можно еще вопрос касательно курса? У нас будет какой формат? Какие-то лабораторные, домашки, как они будут идти?
Будут домашки в виде Jupyter ноутбуков, всего 5 домашек, 6-я будет продвинутая бонусная. То есть вы загружаете, домашка, получается, где-то 1 на 2-3 недели выдаваться будет. О всех дедлайнах, анонсах мы вам будем сообщать через телеграм-канал. Завтра Анна Кузина, лектор курса, вас к нему подключит, к этому каналу. А сдаваться задания будут через платформу AnyTask. Примерно так она выглядит. Мы тоже вам разошлем инструкции, как к ней подключиться. Тут будут создаваться отдельные задания, например, там Homework 1. Здесь будет указано, когда дата сдачи, там оценка, и здесь ассистент будет оставлять комментарии по ходу проверки домашнего задания. Вот. По формуле оценки более подробно сориентирует завтра Анна. Вот, так как лекторы у нас их будет двое, Анна и Евгения, они разрабатывали программу нашего курса, и они вот лучше смогут сориентировать, сколько что там весит, и когда мы будем сдавать те или иные элементы контроля.
Понятно, спасибо.
Окей, хорошо, если тогда вопросов больше нет, то всем спасибо, кто был. Михаил, мы с вами можем продолжить.
Да, хорошо. Смотрите, я, как и сказал, я не знаком ни с питоном, ни с Jupyter, ни с